Page 2 now, fighting anti-gun fire with pro-gun fire. In Georgia, quick response to Delta Airlines' attack on the National Rifle Association and its members, and frankly, its non-members alike. Delta and United Airlines both summarily decided to bash the NRA by ending their discount programs. However, some elected officials in Georgia are shooting right back.
For Delta Airlines, two seemingly unrelated issues have collided at the state capitol. One is Delta's desire for a fuel tax break, which had been sailing through the legislature. The other is Delta's professed desire to refrain from entering the current national debate over guns and to demonstrate respect for our customers and employees on both sides, as Delta said in a statement.
I think it's just the major question is, why did you do it to NRA?
Delta has riled many conservatives by withdrawing airfare discounts for NRA members traveling to the NRA's national convention. Now, some of those conservatives in the legislature are asking, should they support a fuel tax worth tens of millions of dollars for Delta?
I just hope that they hadn't thrown the baby out with the wash by picking another battle, in singling out the NRA for this.
Certainly the NRA is an organization that obviously feels very strong, as I do, around Second Amendment, and I think it's time that we take this stand.
The airline fuel tax break is part of a big tax cut package backed by Governor Nathan Deal. Several state senators told us they are hoping Delta will reconsider its stance with the NRA before they vote.
And we need to protect it, but we need to look and see how we can modify this bill if necessary, or have something that Delta can offer us in return.
And I'm confident that Delta, wants to do the right thing, and I look forward to hearing from them.
Think about the chain of events here. A madman shoots and kills 17 people in Parkland, Florida. It's the result of a major breakdown of multiple layers of government which allowed this maniac to carry out his crime. And Delta and United blame the NRA? It's beyond knee-jerk. This is a statement about how little these companies care about our liberty, which is protected in the Bill of Rights. Shame on Delta, shame on United. Guess we're going to have to fly Spirit now, as much as that hurts. Spirit Airlines. Sounds right anyway. Joining me now from Fort Washington, Maryland, former president and current board member of the National Rifle Association, David Keene. David, the message out of Georgia is clear. Hey, don't mess with the Bill of Rights. And that's refreshing from some of these lawmakers, don't you think?
Well, it is. In today's world, what the left has managed to do is devise a way to essentially create a virtual flash mob. And they go toward these corporations. And the corporations, as Delta did, tend to cave because they get these complaints. Well, now what they're learning is that, maybe we shouldn't have gotten into this battle because, one, it has nothing to do with us. It also has nothing to do with the NRA in reality. But it also costs us on both sides. I don't know what it's going to cost them in terms of the Georgia legislation. That I do know that people like me, and I fly Delta all the time, are going to look for alternatives because what they have done is essentially insult not only the 5 million members of the National Rifle Association, many of whom are immediately hurt because 80,000 of them will be going to Dallas shortly, and many of them would be flying Delta to get there. They've also insulted the millions and millions of Americans who care about the Second Amendment, who know that what happened in Florida had nothing to do with the NRA or with them. It had to do with a madman and a breakdown of government at numerous levels. And for companies to respond to a political agenda by immediately and in a panic siding with this virtual flash mob is incredibly naive and dangerous for the company and isn't the way the market is supposed to work.
It is naive because they have it inverted. As you mentioned, 5 million strong, but there are people who support the NRA, such as myself, who are not members. So that 5 million has a multiplying factor there, and they don't understand. They don't understand apparently the fact that this is inverted, and that is people are going to boycott Delta and United. They're going to find another way. They'll take covered wagon to get to Dallas for that NRA convention.
Well, when you fly on Delta, at the end of the flight, the captain often comes on, and the stewardess says, thank you for flying Delta. We know you have other alternatives. Well, they should remember that and should have thought of their own words when they made this decision.
Congressman David Cicilione, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's got this assault weapons ban out there, David. It's, I guess, 2.0, if you want to call it that. But we know from the prior assault weapons ban, 1994 to 2004, that there was no appreciable mark left on the American landscape that, quote, saved lives. So here we go again.
Oh, that's exactly right. And what you saw in the face of what happened in Florida, partly a diversionary activity on the part of government, let's blame somebody else, but politicians saying, gee, we need to do something. They do this all of the time, and if they're asked the question, now, if you had done that, or if you do that now, will what you're suggesting have any impact on a future event of this kind? The answer is almost exclusively, no, it won't. But they say we want to do something. Senator Rubio down there said, well, we could ban high capacity magazines. Somebody else said, well, we should ban bump stocks, or we should do this or do the other.
Right.
And this rhetoric, this sort of straw man attack, makes it very difficult for reasonable people to look at things that might help.
But David, raising the age to purchase a firearm from 18 to 21, you know, I would challenge all 18 to 21-year-olds out there who happen to care about the Second Amendment to rise up right now and say, what are you thinking? I want to take you back, David, to 1776. And a gentleman who fought in the Revolutionary War, his name was Joseph Plum Martin. He fought in 9 battles, including the Battle of Long Island, all the way to the Siege of Yorktown. He was 15 years old, David. And so today...
you can join the Broward County Sheriff's Department at the age of 19.
Well, exactly. So today, we allow these people to serve in the United States military, 18, 19, 20 years old, but at the same time, we're going to deny them their constitutional rights? How do you square that?
Well, and then we have so-called progressives suggesting that we ought to limit the vote to children because they have better judgment than adults. But of course, that's not true when it comes to firearms. The fact is that an arbitrary age like that is just like most of the other things that they suggest, which is to treat people as a group,
right?
A racial group, an economic group, an ethnic group, in this case, an age group. It does away with the necessity of government or policymakers or law enforcement to think about individuals, and what they do is they put this in place of looking at individuals. It's what they did in Florida. It's what they've done elsewhere. They're saying, well, what we ought to do is either is disarm people under 21 because this guy was under 21. The average mass shooter, by the way, is in his 30s. Not necessarily school shooters, but together. So should we ban firearms for people that are under 30? I guess that back in the 60s, Abby Hoffman would have suggested we ban it for people over 30.
Right, or people who live in Las Vegas.
That's the way
right?
you go about these things.
Exactly.
You go about it by looking at the problem and trying to solve the problem, not by simply getting up and saying, I'm for doing something.
And they're doing the same thing, by the way, with, quote, mental issues. And that's a real slippery slope that I don't have time to go down. But you're dead on. They're trying to put these people in these groups. High-capacity magazines. My answer to that, David, is pretty simple. Why do we need 30 rounds? Well, because the bad guy may have 9, 10, or maybe 15, and I'll have more than he has. That's my very simple answer to it. Also, we need to secure our schools, put the Constitution back in the classroom, teach the Constitution, teach the Bill of Rights, teach the Second Amendment, and, oh, by the way, also put this thing called God back in the classroom. David, out of time. Thank you.